Human protects alien girl from a war beast, but human learns the beast once served her line. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The heat rose off the ruined outpost in wavering ribbons, turning the air into a thin metallic haze that stung Evan Brooks's eyes. The ground was still warm under his gloves, radiating from whatever blast had torn through this sector hours earlier. His visor flickered with static again, the cracked display humming like it was about to give up entirely. He tapped it, once, gently. Nothing changed. Great, he muttered, feeling the dry grit cling to his face. The rest of his unit had pulled out before dawn, but his navigation module failed at the worst moment, stranding him in the bleached ribs of a collapsed hangar. The place groaned in the wind, steel shifting, dust falling in slow spirals. Then he heard it. Not loud, not close, just a low, rolling breath that tugged the air in and pushed it out again, steady and enormous. Evan froze. His hand hovered near his tool belt, fingers brushing the worn metal of his emergency flare. The shadow moved first, a ripple along the fractured wall, but the shape that followed made his pulse knock hard against his ribs. A girl, not human. She stepped out from behind a broken support beam, her skin a pale blue that caught the sunlight like cool water. Loose strands of dark hair clung to her cheek, and her breathing was quick, almost trembling. She looked young, maybe Evan's age, but her eyes carried something older, like she had seen storms he couldn't imagine. She saw him at the same moment, flinching back with a soft gasp. Her voice, when it came, was small but controlled. You shouldn't be here. Evan swallowed. Yeah, he whispered. I'm starting to agree with you. Her gaze flicked past him, toward the open yard behind his shoulder. That same low breath shuddered across the debris field again. This time, Evan felt it in his chest. She stepped closer, urgency tightening her voice. It's searching. It won't stop. Evans's throat tightened. What is it? She hesitated, as if naming it gave it power. A war beast. The words left her mouth like a memory she didn't want to carry. A warm gust swept through the broken hangar, a sign the creature was circling. Evan looked at her trembling fingers, at the way she held her arms close like she needed to make herself smaller. She wasn't armed. She wasn't ready. And she was terrified. That was enough. He nodded toward a narrow service passage half buried under the collapsed ceiling. Come on, he said, voice low. We move together. She stared at him like she didn't understand the offer. You'd help me? He gave a tight, tired smile. Doesn't feel like the kind of day to leave someone behind. Her breath caught, almost in disbelief, and for a second the fear in her eyes softened. Then the ground trembled, just once, like a giant foot settling into the sand. She flinched. Evan moved without thinking, guiding her toward the passage as the sunlight dimmed behind them. The metallic air held its breath. Something huge was coming, and neither of them knew that this was only the beginning. The service passage was barely wider than Evan's shoulders, the metal walls warm from the afternoon sun that had baked the outpost for hours. Dust hung in the air like soft static, and every small sound felt louder than it should have. Kayla stayed close behind him, her steps light and careful, yet he could hear the unsteady hitch in her breathing each time the distant thrum rolled through the ruins above. Evan kept his voice low. How far does this tunnel go? Kayla brushed her fingers against the wall, as if feeling for memories hidden in the metal. It leads to the cooling tanks. They are underground. Thick walls. Safe. Her voice trembled at the end, and she drew it back in quickly, like she did not want him to hear it. Evan nodded, even though she could not see his face. Good. Underground works for me. He used his glove to sweep debris aside as they moved, sending little puffs of gray dust into the air. The ceiling creaked once, and he froze until it settled again. Kayla waited silently behind him, her presence steady despite the tension in her posture. The faint blue glow of her skin reflected off the metal surface, creating a cool shimmer in the dim light. She finally asked, "Why did your people come to this planet?" Evan huffed a short, tired breath. "Resource survey. Nothing dramatic. I was supposed to be halfway home by now. He paused, glancing back at her. What about you? She lifted her chin a little, though her eyes carried something fragile. My mother sent me to find old records. My people have lost so much history. This place used to belong to us. Evan filed that away quietly. It matched something he had been suspecting. Her movements, her awareness of the outpost layouts, the way she carried herself with reluctant confidence. She knew more than she was saying, but he did not push. A soft rumble passed through the ground. It was gentle, like a slow heartbeat, but enough for Kayla to place her hand on the wall and steady herself. Evan watched her fingers splay across the metal, the blue tone of her skin deepening as she concentrated. Do you feel that? She whispered. Evan nodded. Yeah, big. Moving slow. Her throat tightened. It is tracking us. Evan inhaled carefully. The air tasted like warm dust and faint ozone from broken wiring. He reached the end of the passage and pushed open a warped maintenance hatch. The cooling chamber opened before them like a cavern, wide and dim, lit only by scattered shafts of sunlight slipping through the fractured ceiling high above. The giant cooling tanks stood cold and silent now, their surfaces marked by years of neglect. Kayla stepped forward, her posture easing ever so slightly. This place, it remembers peace, she said, almost to herself. Evan studied her face. The way her eyes softened when she looked at the ancient infrastructure. The way she balanced awe and sadness in the same breath. She was not just a visitor here. She belonged to this place. A gentle sound drifted from the far end of the chamber, barely more than a sigh. Kayla's breath caught. Evan placed a steadying hand near her shoulder, not touching, just close enough that she could sense the reassurance. Stay behind me, he said softly. She did. The sound came again, a low exhale that carried no aggression, just patience. Waiting. Listening. Kayla's voice barely rose. Above a whisper. It knows I am here. Evan's pulse tightened. And how do you know that? She looked at him, eyes luminous in the dim light. Because it remembers my family. The chamber fell completely still as the truth settled between them like slow falling dust. Evan felt the air shift as the quiet sound drifted across the cooling chamber once more, like a slow breath drawn from deep within the dark. Kayla stood very still beside him, her shoulders angled slightly forward, as if her body remembered something her mind could not fully name. The faint blue glow of her skin flickered softly in the dim light. Evan whispered, If it remembers your family, does that mean it will come closer? Kayla's fingers curled lightly at her sides. It depends. War beasts were trained to respond to lineage, not to words. If it senses my presence the way I think it does, it might approach instead of search. Evan studied the far end of the chamber where the darkness thickened between the tanks. Nothing moved there, yet the stillness felt intentional, like something was waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. He kept his voice gentle. Are they intelligent? Kayla nodded slowly. In their own way. Not like humans or my people. More instinct, more memory. They were guardians once, not predators. The details settled heavily in Evan's thoughts. A guardian was different from a creature born to attack. A guardian had purpose, loyalty, history. He could hear the quiet tremor in Kayla's breath as she added, My family line trained them for generations. They were bonded to our house. They listened only to us. Evan looked at her with new understanding. That explains why it has been following, but not rushing in. A soft, unsteady smile crossed her lips, almost shy. It may be confused. It has not sensed a member of my line in many years. The sound came again, this time a little closer. A low exhale, calm and steady. Evan watched Kayla place her hand against one of the cooling tanks, her palm flat on the cold metal, as if grounding herself. The pale blue glow brightened around her fingers. I think it wants to be sure it is truly me, she murmured. Evan felt something gentle press against his awareness, a feeling he could not name. The beast was not moving in a threatening way. It was pacing, waiting, listening through the vibrations of the chamber walls. Kayla took one careful step forward. Evan instinctively moved with her, staying just a half pace behind. Easy, he said quietly. We do this together. She glanced back at him, and for a brief second her eyes showed pure relief. Thank you. They moved toward the center of the chamber, where a wide stretch of dust lay undisturbed. The air here felt cooler, touched by the shade from the tanks. Kayla inhaled slowly, then released her breath in a steady line, as if matching the rhythm she remembered. Evan noticed it immediately. The beast answered. A low, measured exhale rolled through the chamber, so gentle that it barely stirred the dust on the ground. Kayla's voice came out soft and certain. It is recognizing the pattern. Evan frowned slightly. Pattern. Breath, she explained. My people trained them using breath. Come in, come out. It told them we were not in danger. The idea struck Evan as unexpectedly peaceful. A bond built not through force, but through shared stillness. Kayla stepped farther into the open space, her shoulders square now, her chin lifted with quiet determination. Evan could see the outline of something shifting in the darkness ahead. Slow, deliberate, not approaching fully, but acknowledging the space between them. Kayla's glow softened, spreading across her skin like a calm sunrise. It knows me, she whispered. Or at least it knows the echo of who I am supposed to be. Evan breathed out slowly himself, letting the moment settle. The chamber no longer felt like a hiding place. It felt like an old hall receiving a long-lost guest. The air warmed slightly as the presence in the shadows waited for them to take the next step. The shape in the darkness shifted again, this time with a smoother, slower motion that reminded Evan of a large animal lifting its head to catch a familiar scent. Kayla stood with her hands relaxed at her sides, her posture calm despite the tension humming through the chamber like a low current. Evan kept just behind her shoulder, letting her set the pace. The soft glow from her skin reflected off the nearest cooling tank, casting a gentle blue halo across the dust-covered floor. It is waiting for me to show intention, Kayla whispered. Evan nodded once. Then show it you. Are not afraid. She hesitated at that, her breath catching in her throat before she forced it steady again. I'm not sure it remembers me enough for that. Evan softened his voice. Maybe it remembers kindness more than fear. Her eyes flicked toward him, surprised by the idea, then softened as she faced forward again. She lifted her chin and released a long, even breath. The sound that came from the shadows answered her instantly, a deeper exhale that rolled out across the chamber like a gentle tide. Evan felt the hairs on his arms lift. The connection was real, alive, and shaped by something older than either of them. Kayla stepped forward, just one slow step, her foot touching down lightly on the dusty floor. The shadows stirred again, as if responding to her movement. Evan sensed that if she took one more step without the right tone, the creature might withdraw instead of approach. Kayla's voice softened into the quiet space between breaths. My grandmother told me stories about them. How they would stand beside our people, how they would guide children away from danger. They were never meant for war. Evan listened carefully, finding comfort in the warmth in her words. Maybe it remembers that part of itself too. She took a second step, more confident now. The faint outline of the beast shifted forward, still partially hidden by the shadows of the cooling tanks. Evan could make out the shape of a broad head and a silhouette that suggested great size, but surprising grace. It paused again, mirroring Kayla's stillness. She lifted a hand, palm open, not reaching out but offering presence. I do not want it to fear us, she murmured. Evan watched her carefully. Her shoulders relaxed, her breathing even. The atmosphere around her changed, lifted, as if she was stepping back into a role she did not know she had been missing. You are doing great, Evan said quietly. She whispered back, I am remembering. Another slow exhale drifted across the chamber, closer this time, warm against the front of Evan's suit. The creature was near enough that he could feel the shift of air when it moved. Kayla closed her eyes, centering herself. War beasts answered calm first, voice second, touch last, she said. If I speak too soon, it might think I am uncertain. If I wait too long, it may lose confidence. Evan kept his focus sharp, but his voice was steady. Then let your breathing speak for you. Kayla inhaled softly, held the breath for a moment, then released it in a smooth, peaceful stream. The creature responded instantly, stepping forward until its outline filled the edge of the chamber's dim light. Its presence felt massive but not threatening, like a guardian waking up from a long dream. Kayla opened her eyes, and the blue glow around her brightened just enough to reveal the shimmer of scales along the creature's broad head. She breathed one more time, calm and steady, and in that moment the beast lowered its head toward her, stopping inches from the edge of the light. Kayla's whisper drifted through the stillness. It does know me. And Evan understood then that this moment was not about fear or danger. It was about reunion. The creature's head remained lowered, its broad silhouette steady in the muted light, as if it were waiting for a cue only Kayla could give. Evan watched her closely, seeing the subtle tremble in her fingers settle into something calmer, something grounded. The air in the chamber felt warmer now, carrying a faint earthy scent that reminded him of sun-heated stone after a long afternoon. Kayla stepped closer, careful and deliberate. Her breathing matched to the slow rhythm she had established. The blue glow along her skin brightened with each breath, not dramatic, but steady like a memory resurfacing. "It wants to be sure," she said softly. War beasts learned through emotion. They did not understand spoken commands unless the emotion matched. Evan nodded. "Then let it feel what you want it to know." She gave him a grateful glance, then focused again on the creature. She raised her open hand a little higher, her palm facing the beast, but not reaching far enough to invade its space. The creature shifted its weight, the movement sending a low hum through the ground. "Not threatening. Curious," Kayla whispered. "My people would greet them with stillness first. Not touch, just being present." Evan stayed behind her, maintaining the same slow breathing she said. Something about the rhythm steadied him too, grounding him in a way he had not expected. Kayla took another careful step, closing the gap by only a few inches. The creature responded by lowering its head even further, its wide crest, catching a sliver of light that made its scaled surface shimmer. Evan felt a grounded warmth move through the space, like the quiet acknowledgement between old friends reunited after years apart. Kayla drew in a breath, deeper this time, steady and peaceful. The creature answered with a slow exhale that brushed warm air across her. She closed her eyes briefly, letting the moment settle. "It trusts the breath," she murmured. "It always did." Evan watched her shoulders relax as she continued the rhythmic exchange. A quiet hum rose from the creature, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the metal around them, steady and soothing. Kayla opened her eyes again, her gaze soft. "It is asking me if I am the one it remembers." The idea made Evan's chest tighten. How do you answer something like that without words? Kayla breathed out slowly, with honesty. She stepped closer until she was only a few feet from its bowed head. Her glow brightened again, reflecting across the creature's scales. "I am not the one it remembers," she said quietly. "But I carry their blood. I carry their purpose." The creature let out a soft rumble, not loud, but resonant. Evan could feel it through the floor. Kayla's hand lifted another inch. "And I carry their kindness," she added. "I want you to feel that." The creature inched forward until the edge of its crest touched the faint glow around Kayla's hand, not quite making contact, but close enough that the warmth between them became unmistakable. Kayla's voice softened into something nearly tender. "Yes," she whispered. "That is enough." Evan felt the tension unwind from the entire room, like the outpost itself released a breath it had been holding. The creature remained still, head lowered, posture relaxed. Kayla glanced back at Evan, her eyes warm and bright. "It accepts us," she said. "Not just me. Us." The simplicity of the word struck him deeper than he expected. The chamber, once filled with thick uncertainty, now held the quiet of a promise, as if a forgotten bond had been gently restored. The creature kept its head lowered, a calm presence anchored in the dim chamber, as if it had settled into a memory it had been waiting to recall. Kayla stood only a few feet from it, her breathing slow and steady, the soft glow on her skin fading into a gentle hue. Now that the tension had eased, Evan remained behind her, close enough that she could sense his support without turning around. He watched the creature's chest rise and fall in a slow, peaceful rhythm. The air around them felt warmer, almost serene, as if the outpost itself recognized the quiet moment. Kayla exhaled softly. "It is listening." War beasts always listened before anything else. Evan tilted his head slightly. "Listening for what?" She hesitated before answering. "Truth. Intention. My people believe that these creatures understood the part of us that words could not reach." Evan looked at the creature with new eyes, noticing the subtle motion of its crest and the way its breath aligned with hers. "So you show it your intention first," he said quietly, "and words come later." Kayla nodded, her posture softening as she stepped a little closer. The creature responded with a gentle shift of its weight, leaning slightly toward her as if acknowledging her place. The soft rumble it released vibrated through the metal floor, not loud, but steady and grounding. "It is asking me something," Kayla murmured. Evan kept his voice calm. "How do you know?" "It is the way it holds its breath," she replied. They would pause like that when they wanted direction. Evan watched the creature's stillness more closely. It was subtle, a faint halt in its natural rhythm, but unmistakably deliberate. "What is it asking you for?" Evan asked. Kayla lowered her gaze to the floor for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "It is asking what role I serve." These creatures recognized roles more than names. Evan frowned slightly. "Roles. Every member of my family carried a purpose," she explained. "Guardian, healer, historian, emissary." The beasts responded differently depending on who stood before them. Evan felt the weight of that logic settle in. "And what were you meant to be?" Kayla inhaled deeply, steadying herself. "I was meant to be a keeper of memory." Her voice softened. "I studied our histories, our old ways, the traditions that were fading. I was supposed to guide our people through remembering who we were meant to be." Evan nodded slowly, understanding more than she expected. "Then tell it that," he said gently. "Show it." Kayla raised her hand, palm open in quiet offering. Her glow brightened again, this time softer and more deliberate, as if she were pulling forward a part of herself she had tried to protect for too long. The creature leaned in, closing the last inches of space between her hand and its crest without making contact, choosing instead to rest within the field of her light. Kayla spoke in a low, steady tone. "I am a keeper of memory. I carry the stories of my line. I carry the peace you once protected." The creature released a slow exhale, warm and gentle, brushing across her arm like a silent greeting. Evan felt the shift in the air instantly. Something unspoken passed between them, something that felt like recognition. Kayla's shoulders eased as a trembling smile formed, fragile but genuine. "It understands," she whispered. "It accepts who I am." Evan's chest loosened with quiet relief. "Then that means we are safe for now." Kayla nodded. "Yes, safe." The creature lifted its head slightly, its posture relaxed, its breathing calm. A quiet bond had formed, subtle and delicate, yet strong enough to hold the chamber in a peaceful stillness. Evan looked between them, feeling the quiet awe settle into him. The moment felt less like survival and more like witnessing a connection that had survived generations. Kayla lowered her hand slowly, but the creature stayed close, choosing not to retreat into the shadows. The calm that filled the room was no longer just protection. It was trust restored. The creature remained close, its presence steady and warm, as if it had settled into the certainty that Kayla was someone it could trust. The chamber felt calmer now, the dim light softening around them, but Evan sensed a shift in the air that did not belong to the three of them. A faint tremor rippled through the floor, not from the creature, but from somewhere deeper within the outpost. Kayla's expression tightened, her gaze lifting toward the overhead beams. "Something else is waking up," she whispered. Evan listened carefully. The vibration was subtle, like distant machinery stirring after years of silence. "Backup power systems," he guessed. "Or an automated scan." Kayla shook her head slowly. "Not here. Not in a cooling chamber. This place was not designed for that." The tremor returned, a quiet pulse under their feet, and the creature lifted its head, its crest angling toward the far end of the room. Evan watched its posture shift with gentle alertness, not fear, but awareness. Kayla stepped closer to Evan, her voice lowering. "It feels something I cannot." Evan looked toward the rows of tanks, assessing them quickly. Dust clung to the metal in thick patches, undisturbed for years. Nothing seemed out of place. Yet the vibration continued, steady and rhythmic. "We need to move," Evan said quietly. "If something else is activating, we should put distance between us and whatever it is." Kayla hesitated, glancing back at the creature. "Will it follow?" Evan kept his voice calm. "It trusts you. It will choose." Kayla took a breath, the soft glow on her skin warming into a gentle radiance. "Then we guide it the way my people once did." She moved slowly toward the passage leading deeper underground, her steps careful and deliberate. The creature responded instantly, lowering its head and falling into a slow, graceful motion beside her, as if her presence set the pace. Evan followed close behind, watching the way Kayla's breathing remained steady, her posture calm, her confidence returning piece by piece. The vibration grew stronger as they walked, not loud, but present enough that the air felt charged with quiet energy. The deeper they moved into the old infrastructure, the cooler the air became, brushing against their skin like a reminder of the outpost's forgotten systems. Kayla touched the wall lightly as they passed, her fingertips tracing the faded markings left by her people. This place was not meant to be silent forever, she said softly. Evan watched her carefully. Were your people planning to return? She shook her head. No, but they believed memory should not be buried. They left the outpost open to those who would seek understanding. Evan considered the implications of that, the way her people valued history as much as survival. The creature's low hum echoed behind them, steady and grounding. Kayla looked back at it with quiet affection. It is asking us if we are continuing the journey, she said. Then tell it yes, Evan replied gently. Kayla offered a soft breath in the creature's direction, a gesture of reassurance, and the creature moved closer, guiding them with its presence more than following. The vibration beneath their feet shifted again, this time rising into a gentle hum, like an old heartbeat awakening after years of rest. Evan glanced toward Kayla. Whatever is turning on, it is close. Kayla nodded. And it may not be dangerous. It might be responding. To us. Evan's eyes softened. To you. Kayla lowered her head for a moment, humility flickering across her expression. Perhaps to both of us, she said. The outpost listens the way the creature does. The hum grew steadier, almost welcoming, and as they stepped into the next chamber, the air carried the faint warmth of something familiar. The creature paused at the threshold, its crest rising slightly as if recognizing the place. Kayla gasped softly. This is the Hall of Lineage. Evan looked at her. And what does that mean? Kayla stepped forward, her glow brightening. It means the outpost knows who I am. The chamber answered her with a gentle pulse of light from the walls, subtle and warm, like a greeting long overdue. The Hall of Lineage opened before them in a wide circle of stone and metal, its walls lined with faint symbols that glowed softly as Kayla stepped inside. The air carried a cool stillness, like a room that had been waiting for a very long time to be filled again. Evan paused at the threshold, feeling the subtle hum woven into the space. It vibrated gently through his boots, a steady pulse that reminded him of the creature's breathing. Kayla took a slow step forward, her fingers brushing the closest wall. The symbols brightened under her touch, forming a thin line of light that followed her movement. This place recognizes my blood, she said, her voice almost reverent. It is responding to the presence of my lineage. Evan watched the glowing lines curve around the chamber, lighting up section by section as though greeting her. Your people built all this, he murmured. They built it with purpose, she replied. These halls were meant to preserve memory, not power. The creature entered behind them, its steps gentle, its crest lifting as it observed the illuminated symbols. A soft, resonant hum rose from its chest, a sound that blended seamlessly with the room's energy. Kayla turned to it with a warm expression. It remembers this place too. Evan watched the connection between them deepen, silent yet full. The vibrations underfoot increased slightly, shifting into a rhythmic pattern that reminded him of distant chimes. What is the hall trying to activate? He asked. Kayla stepped toward the center of the room, where a raised platform sat flush with the ground. A recognition sequence, she said. It is identifying me, confirming who I am. Evan's brow softened with understanding. So this is part of what you came here for. Kayla nodded gently. My mother sent me to retrieve lost records. But she never told me the Hall of Lineage might respond to me personally. She placed her hand on the center platform. The glow beneath her palms spread outward in slow rings, bathing the chamber in a soft blue radiance. The creature lowered its head respectfully, sensing the significance of the moment. Evan approached her side, staying just close enough to offer support without interrupting the process. Are you all right? He asked quietly. Kayla nodded, but her breath wavered with emotion. Yes, it is just overwhelming. The symbols along the walls brightened all at once, forming patterns of light that spiraled upward like strands of memory woven into the air. The hum deepened. A soft projection materialized above the platform, slowly revealing interconnected lines that resembled a family tree. Kayla's eyes widened. These are the recorded names of my ancestors, she whispered. This is my line. Evan studied the glowing branches, noticing how one line glowed brighter than the rest, pulsing slowly. What does that branch mean? She hesitated, then placed her hand over the brightest point. The room responded instantly. A gentle wave of light washed across the chamber, settling into a calm glow around Kayla. It is confirming my role, she said softly. Keeper of memory. Evan felt a profound quiet settle between them. So it recognizes you completely, he said. Kayla nodded. Yes, and it recognizes you too. Evan blinked. Me? The platform pulsed again, and a second line of light formed beside hers, faint but present. Kayla turned to him, emotion shimmering in her eyes. The hall acknowledges those who stand with a keeper, she explained. It means it sees you as part of my purpose. Evan's breath caught in quiet disbelief. The creature stepped forward, releasing a soft rumble that vibrated through the space in what felt like approval. Kayla placed her hand gently over the new line of light. You are not of my blood, she said softly, but you are now part of my lineage's memory. The hall glowed warmly in response, embracing the moment with a stillness that felt sacred. Evan stood beside her, the weight of the moment sinking in, as the chamber acknowledged a bond neither of them had expected. The light dimmed into a calm, steady glow, as if the outpost itself sighed in recognition of what had just been restored. The glow within the hall of lineage softened into a steady, peaceful light, as if the walls themselves were settling into a long exhale. Kayla kept her hand resting lightly on the illuminated platform, her expression calm, but full of something deeper, something that seemed to settle into her posture like a long-awaited truth. Evan stood beside her, the faint line of light linking his presence to hers still glowing gently under the surface. The creature remained close, its large form lowered in quiet respect, its breathing aligned with the soft pulse filling the chamber. Kayla lifted her gaze toward the ceiling, where the symbols continued their gentle shimmer. My people believed that when a keeper stepped into this hall, the walls would show them what paths were open to them, she said softly. Not commands, just possibilities. Evan watched the shifting patterns along the curved walls. They did not form pictures or words he could understand, but the slow, fluid motion felt intentional, like tides moving in response to the moon. Do you see something? He asked. Kayla nodded faintly. Not exactly. It is more like a feeling. A direction, not a destination. The creature let out a quiet hum, lowering its head so the light reflected off its crest in soft waves. Kayla turned toward it with a thoughtful expression. It understands what the hall is showing. Evan took a slow breath, letting the cool, steady rhythm of the chamber settle through him. What is it showing you? He asked. Kayla's eyes softened, glowing faintly with the reflected blue. That I am not meant to walk this place alone. Evan felt something shift inside him, subtle but real. Does that mean I am supposed to help you finish what you came here for? She considered the question carefully before answering. You have already done more than I expected. You helped me face the creature. You helped me find this hall. You helped me remember who I was raised to be. Evan looked at her with quiet sincerity. You did all of that. I just stood beside you. Kayla shook her head gently. Standing beside someone can be the greatest kind of help. The hall pulsed once more, as if agreeing. A warm breeze drifted through the chamber, though there was no opening large enough to create wind. It felt like the outpost's way of offering gratitude. The faint blue glow on the platform began to fade, signaling the end of the recognition sequence. Kayla removed her hand slowly, the light lingering on her palm before dissolving into the air. The creature leaned forward, brushing the edge of its crest against the glow as it faded, acknowledging its conclusion with a soft rumble. Kayla stepped back from the platform, her expression peaceful. It is done, she said. Evan studied her face. Are you all right? Yes, she said with a small smile. More than all right. The hall accepted me, and it acknowledged you. That means the records we find here will be complete. Evan nodded, sensing her calm spreading into the air around them. Then what happens now? Kayla looked around the chamber one last time, taking in the gentle shimmer of the walls, the faint pulse of memory lingering in the floor, and the steady presence of the creature beside them. Now, she said softly, we walk forward. Together. The creature stepped closer, positioning itself at her side, not guarding her, but choosing to accompany her. Evan moved to her other side, matching her pace and posture. The three of them stood in a quiet line as the hall's light dimmed into a calm, twilight glow. No words needed to follow. The silence held everything they understood, the bond restored, the memory reclaimed, and a journey shared. When they finally turned toward the passage leading out of the hall, the softest pulse of light rose behind them, as if the outpost itself was offering a final, gentle farewell. Kayla paused, letting the meaning of that moment settle into her eyes. The creature lifted its head. Evan watched her with quiet respect, and without speaking, the three of them stepped into the long corridor ahead, carrying the hall's silent blessing with them into the waiting dark.